Welcome to Rise Above, the podcast where we turn pain into purpose and struggles into strength. As you know, I'm Jacqueline, your host for Rise Above. So, in today's episode, we're going to talk about the root of love. We're going to talk about how being a mom and a grandma changed my life in ways that I would not even begin to imagine. It is so true that they say that it is, unless you are a grandmother, you really cannot describe the feeling of being a grandmother or grandparent in general. So, being a mom, being a grandmother has taught me strength that no degree, no job, no relationship could ever teach me. It's a life experience that only if you go through it, you will be able to understand it and relate to it. Being a mom shaped me, challenged me, and softened me, and really made me rise above than the person that I would have been if I wouldn't have became a mom when I became a mom. And the same thing goes for, when I became a grandmother. And that's only been about almost a year and a half. She's not a year and a half yet, but it's been about a year and a half. It was a version of me that really also helped mold and help me heal in my healing journey. It was the turning point of my healing process, where I didn't know that if I would survive the healing process, because you really you have to really connect with the emotions. So it's emotional. You gotta talk about the hard stuff. So motherhood didn't just change me, it comforted me. And I say that because becoming a mom at a very young age, I was in my early 20s, in the beginning 20s. I was about, I think I had just turned 20 when I found out that I was pregnant. And I had her at 21. Yeah, I had her at 21. And I remember I hid it from my family. I was so scared. And the learning what it really meant to be a mom. I was like, I'm going to have this little person, like, I'm going to be responsible for this little person. And as I was a mom, and when I went through everything that I had went through, I had to be a mom before I could deal with what I needed to do. Because even if I was in survival mode, this person didn't know that, right? This person, all they knew was that they needed a mom. They needed to go to school. They needed clothes. They needed food. They needed everything. While mom on the intern is like breaking down into pieces internally and trying to deal with all these losses and all these griefs and all these traumas and abusive relationships, and not knowing how to love herself, but trying to teach your daughter to love themselves and not notice what you're going through, because they're looking at you and making sure that you're putting this person up, this facade up that's different from what you're feeling on inside, is different from what you're accepting in relationships. So trying to raise my daughter was healing also on the inside, because I was able to speak out loud to her what not to accept. I was able to build a relationship with her where it was an open relationship, something that I didn't really have with mine. I talked to her about the birds and the bees, and that was not something that really was talking to me about. And I would say that birds and the bees conversation where it wasn't the best, but we did it. I wouldn't say that I had the pressure to be perfect. I think the pressure came with, there was days that I just wanted to just sulk in what I was feeling. And I couldn't. Because I had to be a mom. And I needed to show her that no matter what life threw your way, you got to push through it. You cannot sit there and soak in those emotions, because it will consume you, and Lord knows where it would take you, right? So even if I was breaking inside, I found my strength in being a mom because of her. And I say this to her all the time. My voice is cracking. I don't think that I would have been able to go through or weather through everything that I have been through if it wasn't because I had her and I had to be a mom, I think that if I did not have her and I wasn't a mom, I probably would have done something stupid, either alcohol, drugs, or turned to something, because there in my mind there wouldn't have been anything worth living for. But because I had her, she was worth living for. Even though there was times when I lost my husband, when I would get up and I'm like, I'm alive again. All right. Seriously, all jokes aside. But because I had her, that was my purpose, to move through what I was going through. So all the sacrifices, the late night crying, the crying of silence, and the working through exhaustion. Like, one thing that I'll tell you is that with anything that I've gone through, I've buried myself into work. And when you're the only provider in the home, you don't have time to be exhausted. You have to make money because you got 2 mouths to feed. And it's so true when you say that you will make sure your child eats before you do. I could go to sleep starving. So I tell her this all the time, and I don't know if she really has processed it, but my daughter didn't just change my life, she saved it. Even though when I had her, I didn't know that she was gonna be the person saving my life, with everything that I went through from the time I had her all the way up until the age of 19, where we went our separate ways. Now, when it comes to being a stepmom, that's a love without a blueprint. And there's a little bit of a different approach that you take, because at least for me, I didn't want to overstep boundaries with his biological mom. But the reality is that being a stepmom also gave me the strength to get through the loss of my husband. So my daughter gave me the strength to get through life. It changed me. It saved me, because of that first loss that I had, just what being a stepmom entailed, and all those sacrifices and times of not knowing whether you was going to have the money for the rent, or do I pay my rent, or do I buy food, or do I pay the light, or do I... So from that point, from the time she was born, which was 2002, all the way up in 2017, she saved me in ways that I would not even be able to sit here, and I'm so appreciative. So that's when it comes to my daughter, I don't care who I need to go up against, I will. It could be my mother, it could be my father, it could be my brother, it could be my sister. But if you do something that I feel like is coming, or you're trying to come in between my relationship with my daughter, you're gonna see another version of me. Or if you hurt my daughter, like I remember when she had her first heartbreak, and she knocked on my door, my bedroom door, at maybe 1-2 o'clock in the morning, and she was like, "Mom, can I sleep with you?" And she was bawling. When I tell you, at that point, that boy, I was ready to give him the head up. I was ready to do jail time. Like, you hurt her. But I also knew that I had to let her deal with that, because people are going to hurt your feelings. Boys are going to break your heart. And that's the reality of it. And you have to learn how to get through that. You have to learn how to process the emotion and kind of like sail your way out of that and not let that consume you. So, becoming a stepmom, so being the stepmom, like from the time that I lost my husband from 2020 up until now, my stepson, my Daniel, his name is Daniel, really gave me the strength to get through that. Even though like he lives in the Dominican Republic and I live here in the United States, of course, like my daughter was all of my support, with me being back home and dealing with that. But when I would go to the Dominican Republic, I had this little boy that didn't understand why his father wasn't coming home, which was very heartbreaking. That didn't understand that the person that gave him all the love in the world and that separated him was no longer available. So I took that on. His mom is not present the way that I personally feel that she needs to be present. So I took that on. And to me, that's my son. Can nobody tell me otherwise? That's my son. I do everything for him, and I don't care that I do everything for him, because when I met him, when I met his father, he was 6 months old. He's about to be 9 in February, and I have a thorough relationship with his school, and not only his school, with his pediatrician that's over there, with everything. I'm his mother. We feel a void for each other that no one else is gonna understand but us. So I wanted to give him some stability and some consistency, because his life also too changed from one day to the other, and he was 3 going on 4 when his father died. So he didn't know that. He just know that he saw me there, and I remember when I returned back to DR, he was so excited to see me. He was like, "You were just here. You came back, right?" So that became one of the biggest and the greatest blessings that came out of my marriage with my husband. So loving him through, though, when I was grieving, validating for him that it was okay for him to talk to me about his dad. It didn't bother me, because that helped us pull each other through the grieving process. He was experiencing it differently. So breaking those stereotypes around step parenting with love and empathy, like, if I was to go deeper into my relationship with him, I think that you guys would be like, "You're not a step parent. You're just a parent." So family isn't by blood. It's made with love, presence, and intention. And that's exactly what I've been with him, for him, throughout these years. And unless his family takes me out of his life, which I don't think will happen, because they see the true person that I am with him and with them, I'm always going to be in his life. I'm going to be at graduations. I'm going to be there for his first girlfriend, even though he says now that he has a girlfriend in school. Like, boy, stop it. You don't. And he'll tell me, like, "Mami, yo siempre voy a estar ahí contigo. I'm always going to be there with you, Mom." I'm like, "Yeah, boy, I've already been through this rodeo. You're going to fall for a little girl, and that's going to be the person for you, and you're going to throw your mama to the side." But listen, I get it. I get it. Nothing prepares you for the love you feel when your child becomes a parent. And that is so true. Like, my sister became a grandparent first. And then, well, no, I'm lying. My oldest brother became a grandparent first. And then my sister became a grandparent. And then the brother that I'm more closer to also became a grandparent. And I saw the excitement through them, and I was just like, wow, that must be nice. I'm like, okay. Like, and everyone has told me it's a feeling that you really can't describe. So I remember I was in the Dominican Republic when my daughter called me. I typically spend the holidays in the Dominican Republic with Daniel. And she calls me. She was like, "I was trying to give you a Christmas gift, but when you got back, but I can't wait." So I was like, okay. I was like, okay, give it to me now. So she shows me the pregnancy test. I immediately started crying. And I was like, oh my God. And she thought she was going to be in trouble. But I'm like, "Girl, you live with your boyfriend. What do you think that I think you're doing? Praying? Stop it. Stop it." I'm like, "Girl, no, why would you be in trouble? You're not in trouble." I'm actually excited. So I'm like, "Oh my God, you got to go to the doctor and you got to do all this stuff." And I'm like, all I kept thinking was like, I need to be there. So I was really excited. I wanted her to take care of herself. I wanted her to feel comfortable. And it was a different kind. Our relationship as mom and daughter was going to step into a different kind of relationship, right? Because now it's something that she can relate to how I feel. And I remember I told her, it's like, I cannot wait until you get to the point where you tell me, "Mom, I understand why you wouldn't let me go to the party. Mom, I understand why you were overprotective. Mom, I understand why you wouldn't let me do things," right? Because that's going to be the only validation to how I raised her and her being a parent, and knowing that it wasn't because I didn't want her to have fun. That was my way of protecting her from all these cycles out there. And I tried, even though I'm living here in Florida, I really wanted to be present as much as she would allow me to be present in there. And it was first really difficult for me to adjust to her not needing me, in the sense of she had a boyfriend, right? So she didn't need me anymore. I mean, she didn't need me when she moved out, but it was different, right? Like, I had to accept this person in my daughter's life where my daughter would say, well, let me speak to him about this. And I would be like, what do you mean? Right? So I had to learn how to be a mom with my daughter that was beginning her life. And one thing that they tell you that they don't tell you is that your kids are borrowed. You are prepping your kids for someone else, for them to speak out into the world. And, you know, you have to let them make mistakes. And that was really hard for me. It had been 19 years, just me and my daughter. And there was things that, you know, and I feel bad for him, right? Because he is coming into this family dynamic of me and her. And I'm not standoffish, but I'm just like, I did it all by myself. What are you going to show me? But I liked him, right? I liked him. I think the adjustment was, he's dealing with a mother-in-law that had to play two roles. So it would, I think, and again, I don't know if this is, you know, I'm just going by my perception. I think for him, it was really difficult because he didn't need to prove himself to me. But I think that he may have thought that he had to. And I think that because of my demeanor when it comes to my daughter, I may have made him feel that way unintentionally. And we've had several conversations, and I think that is why. That's my nigga. That's my, like, you know, is he perfect? No, but my daughter's not perfect either. Like, I gave him a gold medal for dealing with her attitude as well. So he came into this family dynamic that was really hard to adjust to, right? And he did it. I mean, they've been together for a few years now, and they have a kid together, and he's great as a dad, as a man. And, you know, I tell my daughter, like, let him be a man, right? Because it's hard for me to let somebody be a man because I've had to be the man. So for him, he saw that, right? And, you know, he's also helped me grow in a different kind of way of allowing me to step back and let him do his thing, living together with my daughter and being a dad. So going back to, you know, the whole year, the whole 9 months of my daughter being pregnant, I wanted to be present. So I would travel back and forth of, you know, being there and, you know, to go to appointments with her. And I was there in the delivery, and I didn't want to outshine them. Like, this is their experience. I just wanted to be there as support for my daughter. And I was like, I'm not that type of mom. Like, this is your life. I no longer come first because this is your dynamic right now. I went through this already, even though I went through that part alone. But the fact that my daughter gets to go through this with the father of her child, that for me is a reward for my parenting in itself. Because I went through it alone. And the fact that my daughter is experiencing this with her significant other, she didn't have to go through the pregnancy by herself. My granddaughter gets to know who her dad is. Her dad is present. So that is life's reward for the stuff that I've gone through. So that's the, you will never hear me say that my daughter owes me anything. She doesn't owe me anything. But these little blessings that God gives me through my daughter, where she's able to hold down her own apartment before she met him. Now, you know, they have a very good relationship where they're able to hold down an apartment, and they're very young. They have a 2-bedroom apartment, and they're holding it down, young parents, right? So that's something to be rewarded. So, let me go back to when my granddaughter was born. So the moment that she came out, it was just like a switch in me. Yes, it was like me reliving every single moment. Every single moment I had with my daughter. So thinking of when she was born, it was like I time traveled in my brain. When she had her first day of kindergarten, and then when she had her first day of school, her proms, her graduations, and I'm like, she's gonna forever be my baby, but she's no longer my baby. My baby's having a baby. And when I held my granddaughter for the first time, I do not understand how there are grandparents that cannot be a part of their grandchild's life. Because it was such, I can't even put it into words. It's such an emotion that you feel. I'm obsessed with my granddaughter from the day she was born up until today. Can't nobody tell me nothing. That's my granddaughter. She is just a little beautiful little smuckums, like I call her. And wanting to not that she needs it, but wanting to make sure that I guide my daughter in the right way, right, in this new chapter of her life, while giving her her space to develop what type of mother she wants to be. Because there's no manuals in parenting, there's no manuals in grandparenting, right? You gotta let them figure it out for themselves. So I'm living my best life. Like, if my daughter comes to me and asks for advice, I give it to her. I don't solicit any advice. I let her do her thing. If she wants to do things a certain way, that's her child. That is not my child. That is her child. That's my grandchild. So I get to get her all dirty, give her all this sugar, play with her, and do all these grandparenting things with her that are so fun, and then I get to give her back. So listen, that's just how life is. And being a grandparent, it is such a different feeling. It's hard. It's like, you want to protect them. You don't have to protect them, but it's just like, it's a piece of your daughter. It's a piece of your daughter, and your daughter is a piece of you. So you're like, oh, I'm just obsessed with my granddaughter. So for me, she definitely gets the softer version of me. I hear my daughter say it all the time. My daughter's like, my grandma has McDonald's money now. And my granddaughter will do something. I'm like, Amy, she's just a baby. And she's looking at me like, so I'm definitely a softer person when it comes with her. But it also helped me do things different in my grandparenting approach that I didn't necessarily get from my grandparents, or that I didn't see my mom do with hers, right? And I don't mean with hers, that's a whole nother story, right? So I wanted to be present no matter what. Like, no matter what, I wanted to be present. And again, I also had to learn how to take a step back. And yes, I want to be present, but I'm not running the show. You make the decisions. If you want me involved, you let me know, and I'll give you the support that I need. And my daughter knows that if she ever needs me, I'm going to be there. Like, I will sell my soul if I need to, if she needs me. And the same thing if it's for my granddaughter, for Autumn. So my granddaughter gave me the chance to love in a way the little girl inside me always needed. Let that sink in. And that's why I'm so obsessed with her, because I get to love her in ways that I couldn't love my daughter, because I love my daughter. Don't get me wrong. I love my girl. That is my pride and joy. That is my biggest blessing. But I couldn't focus on just being a mom and love her as a mom. I had to love her as a mom and a dad. So it's different. So with my granddaughter, I'm able to love her without having any specific mom or dad roles, just a grandmother role. So it has the little girl in me wanted to be loved, right? So strength is not loud, but sometimes it's quiet and unseen. Strength is showing up even when you're broken. So for me, I would show up to everything, even if I didn't want to, even though I was like, I felt like crap. I'm like, I'm going to show up. Like, it doesn't matter that I'm feeling. And, love is sacrifice. And, when you truly love someone, you sacrifice. I'm not saying sacrifice where you're putting yourself in a hole. No, it's a healthy sacrifice. It's a patient form of having faith. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be a good parent. Like I said, there's no manuals in parenting or grandparenting. You just have to be good, and that you're going to make mistakes along the way, but it shouldn't be mistakes that are going to tarnish or jeopardize the the mindset of your kid. Healing wounds changes your children's future. So even though my healing process started later, I was very conscious of that. I knew that I had some trauma. I just didn't know how in depth my trauma was. So I wanted to do differently with my daughter. I wanted to find a balance of letting her out, but not letting her out that much, because there's people crazy out there, right? I wanted to have a relationship with her where she felt comfortable sharing things with me. And girl, she does. Sometimes there's things that she says and I'm like, thank you, honey. I could have gone without knowing that. But I'm glad that she's comfortable enough to tell me that. So that's when your story becomes a legacy. So I did things a little differently than how my mom did. And I'm sure that Haley's going to do things differently than I did, right? She's going to take, there's always going to be something that your child thinks that you as a parent could have done differently. So she's going to take what resonated with her in the good, and she's going to instill that in her parenting. And whatever she felt that she didn't like or that I could have done better, she's going to do differently in raising Autumn. And that's perfectly fine. That is perfectly fine. So when it comes to your kids, your stepson or granddaughter, if you have those, they are the why for you. They should be the why. Because I can tell you that for me, my daughter, my stepson, my granddaughter, they're all the whys for me. Not only with what I do in my life day in and day out, but this is why I build a Rise Above. I want my daughter to see everything that I have come across in life, and everything that I have, pushed through, and the strength, and, still being a mom and still wearing all the hats that I had to wear. And I want to be able to inspire and give at least some hope, some ray of light to anyone that can resonate with any topic that I talk about on Rise Above. I've always been told that I have a way of speaking that people enjoy. So if I can motivate, inspire, or instill some hope in someone, I'm going to do it. And that's why I did Rise Above. Like, I wanted to be able to people to see that although you may feel like you're the only one that goes through this, more people do go through it. And look at what I've been through, and look at where I am today and how I've turned that into a positive, which is very difficult. So everything that I've been through, everything that has survived has shaped me into being the person that I am today. So I don't regret anything that I've been through. I don't regret any choices or mistakes that I've made, because if I wouldn't have done that, I wouldn't be here. And Lord knows if I would have even had an Autumn, or had a Haley, or had a Danielle. And I love having that. I'm loving having those experiences with them. So it was all worth it. So they are my purpose. They're my motivation. They're actually what inspired me to heal, because they deserve a healed version of me, and not the broken down version that some people got, right? And even my daughter got a broken down version of me, even though I was fighting to give her a different version of myself. So I want to ask you guys a couple of things today. Who taught you strength? And what lesson from your mother, father, or grandparents shaped you the most? So comment below. If you, like I said, if you guys don't feel comfortable commenting below, message me privately, send me an email. I love reading people's stories, and I love reading, how they've been able to kind of surpass that. Or if you're in it and I can support you in any way possible to kind of figure out your way of trying to start your healing journey, let me know, reach out. So again, and I say this, being a mom and being a grandma is the greatest blessing of life. They are my reason, my purpose, my anchor, and my reminder to rise above every storm life sends my way. Just because you heal doesn't mean that there's not going to be any other storms. But now I have the strength to weather through it. So hug your babies tight, no matter how old they are, because those memories become treasures when you're not here. So if this episode touched you, please like, follow, share, subscribe. And to anyone that needs it. And I'll see you in episode 10. I hope you guys keep tuning in. Thank you, and have a great evening.